As a real estate investor, one of the big decisions you're going to have to make is, am I going to self-manage my property or am I going to use a property manager? Personally, we use a property manager, but we started out with self-management. And when you're coming to that choice, there are a couple things to think about when it comes to, should I hire a property manager, or how do I know if I should hire a property manager? My name is Casey Miller. I work for Rentec Direct Property Management Software. I'm also a landlord, a real estate investor, and a real estate developer. And here are some of my tips for what you should think about when it comes to hiring a property manager. Now, the best value a property manager gives you the time and the space to let all of the issues and the management tasks and the operational tasks of your rental property be outsourced to someone else, someone who has a business where their sole focus is managing rental properties. Now, it comes at a cost, which is why a lot of people choose to self-manage their properties. Self-management means that you're taking on that role of a landlord. You might consider yourself a real estate investor or an owner-operator who manages their own properties. If you don't really like the title of a landlord, but essentially that's what you are when it comes to, you're the one that's interacting face-to-face with your tenants, you're collecting rent, you're answering maintenance calls, you're marketing the property, you're making sure that everything for your rental property is operating smoothly so you can make sure it's occupied, your tenants are satisfied, and you're collecting rent each month and meeting your expenses. Now, property management is going to take all of that on. They typically charge between 6 to 12%. 10% is kind of the norm. I think that's about what we pay our property manager, between that 7 and 10% depending on the property. Sometimes when you have multifamily properties or more units at one location, property managers can maybe give you a discount and charge at that lower end of the percentage. It also might be based on your area and what they're charging. I think it's really important to do your market research and find out what value you're going to be getting from the property manager for that percentage of your rental income. Because going with the least expensive option, what does that include? Does that provide less services, less quality services? Where if you have a property manager who provides the best service, maybe that results in more occupancy, more satisfied tenants, a higher likelihood that the rental income will get paid on time every month by your tenants. And so that percentage is less of a bottom line than if you're working with a property manager who's unresponsive to tenant requests, not following up on late or missed payments, and not filling your unoccupied units quickly. So you're not even getting that rental income to pay them that percentage in the first place. So what else does a property manager do? They're really going to focus on helping with marketing that property and collecting rent, chasing down late payments, missed payments. They're also going to be one of the best resources is if you're ever dealing with a lease violation or needing to go through an eviction and go through a court process to deal with any tenant issues that might arise. So we really loved having a property manager. In another video, I'll share a story where we had the best value out of a property manager who prevented us from having to change out-of-state travel plans, who went to court to help with kind of a dangerous tenant situation, and really helped us follow through on taking the right steps to deal with some legal issues with our property. And that was such a huge value. Some people might think that a property manager isn't necessary. All they doing is collecting a rent check every month and I have to pay them 10% of my rental income. That's $100 maybe that I could be retaining myself and keeping as profit. But yeah, in theory, that's what you want for a perfect rental situation. You want a tenant that pays rent on time, doesn't cause any issues. You never hear from them because they maintain the property. Everything's going great. But that's not always the case, especially the more properties that you own, the longer that you've been owning a rental property, you're going to run into potentially the risk of you running into issues are going to be there. So that's where we find the value in property management. Also, the opportunity cost. How much time do you have to put into managing properties? Do you have another full-time job? Are you trying to spend time looking at more real estate deals to invest further into your real estate portfolio? If you can outsource some of those tasks to someone else, then you have the opportunity to be more productive or profitable in other areas in your life. There's other ways where you can work with a property manager where maybe they just handle different parts of your rental management operations. Like they might only do the marketing and the leasing, and that can take out, a couple months of following up with tenant leads, or hopefully not that long, maybe just a week or two of following up with tenant leads, or they just handle the eviction process for you. And then you can use kind of automated systems for collecting rent each month, like using a software company like Rentec. But the best property managers are really going to show their value about how they can keep a property occupied for you, how they can maintain tenant lists, and how they manage maintenance requests, and how they're going to really show up for you in the event of a legal situation, and kind of understanding the landlord-tenant laws, the landlord-tenant relationship, and what rights you have as a rental property owner, and what rights your tenant has as a rental property owner. So obviously, I'm a big advocate for property managers. I think they provide a huge value for our industry, but I also recognize that landlords and owner-operators who self-manage their own properties have the resources to figure out how to do it themselves. So if you ever want to know any more tips or questions about what's going on in your operations, and if it's time to hire property managers, or maybe if you are working with the property managers, but you're not sure if that's a right fit, make sure to like and subscribe to find more advice on what it's like to be a real estate investor, tips for a great landlord-tenant relationship, and how to work the best as a property manager or with a property manager. My name is Casey Miller. I work for Rentec Direct Property Management Software. You can always find this and more videos on the Rentec Direct blog. Come and visit us there.